gentlemen, in 3 years, I doubled my MBA income in the marketplace. You hearing what I'm saying? And I've never had a real job, but I got a mindset. Lesson number 1. For you to get to that next level, here's what you need: information. You need to get information. No offense, I don't even watch TV. CNN don't pay my bills. Okay? Power don't pay my bill. I don't even watch TV. I might catch a sporting event, or don't get mad about a football game. I love to watch football. But I don't watch TV. Why? It's unproductive in my opinion. I get 24 hours a day just like Bill Gates. I get 24 hours a day just like Beyonce and Jay-Z. You get 24 hours a day, ladies and gentlemen. What do you do with your 24 hours? You need to get more information. In our coaching program, all we do is drop content nonstop. And people are like, wow, I didn't know that. Wow, I didn't know that. See, you don't even know what you don't know. How did you let me come from behind and clip you? Do you guys know the studies show the better we look, the more money we make? Which means your website should pass the eyeball test. Your truck should pass the eyeball test. Your people should pass the eyeball test. You should pass the eyeball test. Everybody in this room has a promised land somewhere, but you can't be stuck on the city you like. You got to hear God and go to your promised land. Your promised land might be Utah. Your promised land might be Minnesota. Your promised land might be Wyoming. Hear me clearly. You better use your money to get information and access, and you better be flexible, because a real shark is flexible. Can we stop fronting and get real about this thing? And if I can do it, you can do it. I knew nothing about life. I knew nothing about business, but I had the right mindset, and I learned it through sports. And y'all got to hear my story so you understand. I didn't even start on my college basketball team. I came off the bench. At the University of Minnesota, I came off the bench. But in my mind, you can bring me off the bench, but I'm an NBA ball player when you get through talking. When you get through, I'm an NBA ball player. And that's why I would walk around and say, you can't check me. You can't check me. You can't check me. If I was you, I would walk around every day and say, I'm a millionaire. I'm a millionaire. I declare it right now. I'm worth millions. I'm worth millions. I will receive my salary right now, but I won't accept it as my value. So whatever you receive right now, receive it, but don't you accept it as your value. Because there's more out here for you if you change your mindset. In my coaching program, I got a concept called the black tie effect. Oh, I wish I had more time. It's called the black tie effect. If you don't own your own tuxedo and go to at least 6 to 10 black tie events in your market, you suck. There's no better way for you to distinguish yourself as a top business leader in your area than to go to black tie events. I didn't say fundraiser. Black tie events attract the top businessmen in your area. And what happens at a black tie event? You sit at a table, and in America we ask 2 questions. What are those 2 questions? What is your name? And what do you do? What is your name? And what do you do? What would happen in your local marketplace? You became known as a philanthropist. What would happen in your local marketplace? You were known as being charitable. What would happen in your local marketplace if all the other business owners who are highly successful not only know your company, but they know you personally? Can I ask you a question? How many black tie events do you go to? When I stopped playing basketball, I had no money coming in. And all I would do is go to black tie events and be around highly successful people. And I would sit at the table. They would ask me my name. And the second question, I was waiting for it. But what do you do? Well, I'm a former NBA player, but now I'm a motivational speaker. And at those black tie events, you know, they attract not only successful business people, they attract the good guys too. See, snake business guys who only care about money, they don't go to black tie events. People who go to black tie events care about their community. People who go to black tie events make a difference in their community. Let me tell you something. I noticed right away at the black tie events, these were the successful people that I wanted to know. And I began to build leverage. I began to build a brand by building relationships with the top business people in my community because I was willing to go to black tie events. There's nothing more important you can do, business owner, than to buy you a tuxedo and go to black tie events, because everybody in the building is going to ask you your name, and they're going to ask you what you do. What would happen if your company became endeared to some charity in your community? Ladies, what better way is it to build the culture? Some of you wives, why don't you drive this? He's busy trying to make money. You drive the charity. You found the organization, and you make sure that your company is synonymous with some philanthropic area in the community. There's nothing better than changing a life. There's nothing better than blessing somebody who's less fortunate. I made a commitment of lifting the spirit of people who were trying to get to that next level. Start your business with charity. There's no better methodology than that. Never forget this, all great brands are built on passion. So before you build your brand, it's not about the color, it's not about the font. All great brands are built on passion. So can I ask you a question? What are you passionate about? See, if you're not passionate about anything, your marketing is going to be ho-hum as well. Does that make sense? You can't build a great brand without passion. Let's take a look at Nike. Phil Knight built Nike and the brand out of passion. He loves to run, and he couldn't find good running shoes. So he said, well, I'll just start a company and make some myself, because a good runner needs to have good shoes. He's built an international brand based on passion. If you want to be a millionaire, you got to think like $1 million person. You can't fake this thing. Y'all hear what I'm saying? You got to be legit in this game. You can't fake it to the NBA. You got to be able to ball out. You got to be able to hoop. You got to be legit. And in business is the same way. You got to be legit. So take your money and get some information in your head, and then take some money and get access. I got 3 kids, and this is why you got to get access, so you can make life easier for your kids. Well, ain't nobody do nothing for me. Oh, your mindset is jacked up. Ain't nobody do nothing for me, so I ain't gonna do nothing for my kids. You ain't thinking about your legacy. Right now, it's like a track meet. You're running a 4x1, 100-meter dash. 4x1, and your baton is in your hand. And let me tell you something. I want you to run as strong as you can, as fast as you can, as hard as you can, and one day you're gonna get old. One day your knees gonna buckle. And your son gonna be right behind you. Your daughter gonna be right behind you. And at a track meet, they yell, stick. And you gotta make a successful handoff to the athlete in front of you. And that's your son, that's your daughter. So can you do me a favor? You gotta get on that track and run, because the baton is in your hand right now. And to me, 50 grand ain't enough to live your dreams. To me, 80 grand ain't enough to live your dreams. Who's trying to live in that big house? Who's trying to live in that big car? Who's trying to retire with some real money in the bank? Ladies and gentlemen, you guys know the average American only has $1,500 in savings? You're a car accident away from going broke. Hear me close. Don't sell product. Sell hopes and dreams. Don't sell product. Sell hopes and dreams. Don't sell product again. Sell hopes and dreams. I give myself away, and blessings come my way. In your community, be charitable. In your community, be a giver. In your community, get to know the other givers, and I promise you one thing, something's gonna happen to your heart, something's gonna happen to your culture, and the lagging indicator, something's gonna happen to your pocket.
The most obsolete idea is go to school, get a job, work hard, save money, get out of debt, and invest for the long term in the stock market. See, why would you save money when they're printing trillions of dollars? The gap between the 1% and 99% is massive. You see, it's not just money. You have to step back and look at the bigger picture.
So what do you do?
In every one of us is a poor person. There's still a poor person inside me. There's also a middle class person. And the middle class person wants security. They want that steady paycheck. And there is a rich person. And they're all inside of us, except that it's not taught. If you're taught to go to school, get a job, and get a paycheck, you're not taught to how to get rich. if you read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, my rich dad refused to pay me. He said the paycheck was one of the most damaging things you could take in your life. He says the moment you take a paycheck, you're an employee, and that's the mindset. So my rich dad never paid me. He drove my poor dad, government employee, nuts. You gotta pay people, you gotta pay people. And Rich Dad was not saying that the paycheck was bad. He says he didn't want to be a slave to money. So as an entrepreneur, if Rich Dad folded, I just started another company. I don't need a paycheck. I don't need anybody to take care of me. If my government doesn't like me, I move to another country because they need entrepreneurs there. So the entrepreneur is not so much the business. The entrepreneur is really the mindset and the skill sets and the different set of rules. You see, I don't operate, small business does not operate in the same rules as big business. Entrepreneur is a mindset first, a skill set, and rules. And depending upon whether you're an employee or a small business, the rules are different. The mindsets are different, the skill sets are different.
You could say one thing to somebody who's never been an entrepreneur and they're thinking about making the leap of faith into becoming an entrepreneur. What could you tell them?
Well, I'll just tell them the same thing that happened to me. My last paycheck, I still remember it clearly. It was one of the worst and the best days of my life. I was in Puerto Rico. I was working for Xerox, and my boss gave me my last. It wasn't a paycheck; it was a bonus check. I think it was about $30,000, taxable. So I get this check, and I went, oh, So I was excited, but I was also disturbed. And so this other guy comes up to me. His name was John. And John says to me, he says, "You're going to be back." I said, "Why?" He says, "Because you're going to fail." I looked at him and said, "Look, a few expletive words," because that's what he did. He left Xerox, failed, and came back. And I said, "Look, you failed and you came back. But I'm going to fail and I'm never coming back." And that's the attitude. Do you know what I mean? If you say, well, if I fail, I'll go back to mommy and daddy, then that's what you do. So if you fail, that's when I became an entrepreneur, because I had no money. I had no money for years. I didn't have a paycheck. But that's what my rich dad encouraged me to do. He says, when you don't have this paycheck, you get hungrier, smarter, and it's a test of your character. Will you become a crook? Will you become dishonest? Will you cheat and steal? Or will you become a better human being? So really, that's the benefit of becoming an entrepreneur, is you really find out who you are when you don't have anything. So you always have to look at the big picture. Too many people look at, well, what's going to happen to me? When you look at the big picture, you're also going to know that when something bad happens, something good's going to happen. But you got to prepare for whatever is coming. If you think next 20 years will be like the last 20 years, you're going to get creamed. When you and I go to the supermarket and we buy a carton of milk, we always check for the expiration date. But most people do not check for the expiration date on their brains. Instead of get out of debt, I get into debt. I just refinanced $300 million in debt. I went from 5% to 2.5% interest. I made a fortune. Every month, more money comes in because my cost of money has gone down. So while some financial experts are saying get out of debt, I'm saying learn how to use debt. So when I came back from in Vietnam in January of '73, the first thing my rich dad said to me was go to school to learn how to invest in real estate. It wasn't real estate, it was how to use debt and taxes. Debt and taxes make the rich richer. Debt and taxes make the poor and middle class poor. So all the rich guys who are doctors or lawyers or, those guys, they're getting creamed. They don't know why.
Doctors are getting creamed.
Oh yeah, they're making more money, but the take home is less.
Sure.
My doctor just yelled at me. He was happy. He says, "Oh, guess what? I finally made $1 million." And I said, "Yeah, because this was just 3 weeks ago." And so I said, "Yeah, well, how much you pay in tax?" He says, $750,000 in taxes. So his net was about $400,000. That's not bad. But when I make $1 million, I keep $1 million. And the reason is because I don't make it by working for money. You see, if you work for money, you're taxed.
Show me your friends and I'll show you your future. Unless you want average in America, married, 2.4 kids with 1.5 dogs. But I can guarantee you, you will never achieve anything greater than your highest aspiration. If you want $1 million, you'll make $1 million, not $1.5 million. If you want 10 million, 100 million, and you'll never exceed that. If you change 1 billion lives, that's a formula to become a billionaire and change the world. Time costs lives. Show me your friends and I'll show you your future. You want to know why you're all f***ed up? Just look at the bums you hang around with. I do what you don't want to do, that you know that you got to do to be where you want to be. Ted Turner just gave his 75th anniversary party on CNN a few months ago. And he makes a couple of comments and he says, number one, and I'm not suggesting this for everybody, it's how I lived though. First 10 years of my starting CNN, I slept on my couch. I didn't have an apartment. Bill Gates slept in the office. Steve Jobs slept in the office. And I can go down a whole list. Now these are super successful, mega wealthy guys. I slept in my office. Not everybody's willing to make that sacrifice. But it's not the only thing. But even if you don't sleep in your office, if you want to send your kids to a better school, if you want to be able to take care of your mother when she gets dementia, if you want to, this all takes money. My children aren't getting any of my money when I die. Not one centavo, not one penny. And two of my kids are cool with it. One of them's not so cool with it. I'm not gonna, I think Andrew Carnegie, by the way, Andrew Carnegie, arguably the richest, most successful entrepreneur of all time, he said the best thing that you can have for a child is him to be born into poverty. And I agree. Lack of self-esteem, lack of self-worth. Now they think they have self-worth. They think because they've made a few bucks. But in actuality, and when they measure it against the other 8, 10, 12 people sitting around the table, they realize, or they start to question, hell, maybe I was just lucky. Now, all of us, when you're only a one-trick guy or gal, think, was I lucky? Now, I've done it so many times, I know I wasn't lucky. I might have been lucky the first time, but I haven't been lucky the 15, 20, 40, 50, I know that.
Okay.
But maybe I was lucky the first time. But my life changed when I was pretty much a haphazard kid, got in a lot of trouble, got arrested 4 or 5 times, thrown in jail, and this was when my dad's a cop. But then I volunteered for the draft in 1966, at the height of the Vietnam War, and I went to OCS, and that changed my life because it was the really first real high performance thing that I could measure myself against with other people. 2/3 of all Fortune 500 CEOs have one thing in common: military background. 2/3 of those 2/3 have something else: martial arts. What do you learn in martial arts, Brian? Discipline, focus,